guys, I'd like to share my trek up Mount Sinai, or Moses Mountain, with you today. This is a hike that was much more difficult than I was anticipating, really the hardest one that I've done since like the Grand Canyon. And as you can see, we did this in the middle of the night. Now, in order to climb the mountain, it's required that you have a Bedouin guide. Ours was Moses, or in Arabic, Musa. And he pretty much shows us the way, and at some points, there's an option of him and other guides actually like taking your arm and helping you physically up the mountain, which some of the members of our group actually did. And so really the tricky part here, or one of the tricky parts, is navigating in the pitch blackness. Musa did not use a flashlight, and none of the other guides did as well. They just kind of know the way. It is the guide's sole source of income to help people make this trek. In the summertime, an individual guide might get to take one person, every 3 weeks or so. Right now, it's maybe once a week. Before COVID, it was once or twice a day. So really, their livelihood depends on people making this trek. And so if you aren't ready to make the climb, or aren't able to make the entire climb, you can actually take a camel partway up, and camel drops you off here in this little hut. And as we can see, other people that have made the trek, you leave their photos, leave their business cards, leave money and flags and all sorts of artifacts of their lives. So really cool to be in such a place that holds such a significance for so many people. So there were 6 of us in total that made the trek entirely on foot, and the others, of course, met us right here in this stop point. From here, there is another little stint, like 10 minutes or so, and then you get to the last 750 steps of the 3,750 steps of repentance. By this point, my legs were totally like jelly. I have not hiked anything real, living in South Jersey, in a very long time. And of course, this is really high in altitude. And this part of the trail was the most rigorous and dangerous of all. So not gonna lie, all the way up to the summit, which we can see here, I may have been saying some prayers to just help me actually be able to make it all the way to the top, which, as you can see, I absolutely did. And I can say that just while I was up there, you have the thrill of the hike and all of the, interacting with your friends. And so like lots going on, but it suddenly hit me just how holy this place was. Like it just felt so powerful, like really took my breath away. And so I wasn't anticipating that. I thought it would just be another hike and kind of a cool place to go, but really it felt different. It felt special. I'd also like to give a shout out to this remarkable woman right here. Violetta is 78 years old, and she was able to complete a hike that I was struggling at about half her age. So truly an inspiration to us all. And so at last it was time to come back down the mountain. As you can see, this is on those 750 steps. It gets a little dicey sometimes. And of course it's still pitch black. This is after the 750 steps, where you can just start to see the first rays of sunshine, and like all the way down the mountain, you can watch the sunrise. Everything starts to get brighter and brighter, and really just tranquil and gorgeous the entire way. And finally, we get to see all the stuff that we walked past on the way up, but really had no idea because we were just walking with flashlights. This itinerary isn't normal, it would seem. On the way down the 750 steps, we saw dozens and dozens of people just flocking up to the very top. And so it seems like most people go to the top to watch sunrise from the top, which would have been really cool as well. But I'm just so glad that we got the opportunity to have the entire top to ourselves. We got to really experience the power of the place, the power of the moment, instead of just being elbow to elbow with all of these other people. Of course, as we're coming down and all of these folks are coming up, made those steps even more interesting than it otherwise could have been. But yeah, anyway, I thought it was just glorious to watch the sunrise. There it is, almost up, and of course here's a little friend, my doggy friend, that we could see on the way down. This guy, as you can see here, he posed for me, and we had a little bonding moment, and the poor guy followed me all the way down the mountain, and it just breaks my heart. These guys are so friendly, and so skittish, like never like stealing food or anything. Like if you feed the squirrels of the Grand Canyon or something, they start to steal food from people. But these guys were just very polite. So all the way down at the base of Mount Sinai, there is St. Catherine's Monastery, which we as an entire tour group came back to see later in the morning once we got off the mountain. Some of the highlights from St. Catherine's are the burning bush. So this plant here has been they've tried to propagate it and grow it elsewhere. It doesn't grow anywhere else but Mount Sinai, and so this is considered to be the burning bush that is what tradition states inspired Moses to go back to Egypt to bring his people out of Egypt. All of the granite on Mount Sinai, if you cut it, it has this funny pattern here that actually looks like a burning bush. So these are Mount Sinai rocks. Last highlight from St. Catherine's that I want to show you is the well that tradition states Moses met his wife here. So after we explored St. Catherine's, we went outside, and of course it was like 90 degrees. It was really hot outside, so here's Gia hiding in the shade because it's just so darn hot. We took quote-unquote cabs back to the bus because it's such a long walk from the monastery to the actual parking, and so this is a more typical cab or bus in Egypt, and so we got to experience that firsthand. From there, we drove a couple hours and finally got to the border with Israel. Took just way too long to actually get through the border. I think it took something like 4.5 hours of standing in line, answering questions, and apparently I was sketchy enough that they needed to run my passport, and so I'm like standing there just waiting for them to give me my passport back. Luckily, I guess I'm not a threat, and so got through eventually just fine. After that, we got on a bus, drove for about like 20-30 minutes, and then came to the Jordan border, and so this one went much more smoothly. We were through that in like 20-30 minutes as opposed to several hours. On the way to the hotel in Aqaba, it was really a shock after being in Egypt for so long. It really is like a tropical oasis in Aqaba, which is at the northernmost end of the Gulf of Aqaba, which is part of the Red Sea. And so this is the view out my hotel room. That is water of the Red Sea. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.